I have been hesitant to cover this topic because honestly, it's a very personal one to me. I have been on and off the dating apps since I was 16 years old, and it probably also surprises no one to learn that I was a student brand marketing manager for Tinder back in college, which was very fun, but needless to say, I have a lot of experience on the subject matter. Dating apps, I'm unfortunately intimately familiar with, from swiping in high school, trying to find that cute college boy that does like after school tutoring for us, to swiping at work, swiping in bed at night. At first, it can feel really fun and empowering, but after some time, I started to notice it was feeling emptier and emptier. And as with all of these technologies, it is always to be found in the business and the design. Dating apps have gamified the deeply human experience of romance. And while they promise connection, what they often deliver is addiction, decision fatigue, and a distorted view on love. But there are growing signs of cultural fatigue here, and I think I'm not alone in saying and sharing that a lot of us are starting to get sick of it. So let's dig into it today. My name is Cassidy, and on this channel, I talk about tech and media and culture and how they all intertwine. And today on dating apps, I want to break down the tech design, the business models that are going on in the background, and then of course the psychology of how the heck we got to where we are today. As with the user experience of all these consumer-facing apps, the architecture and the design of the user interface itself is created in a way to drive certain behaviors. And these dating apps have a couple ways that they like to do this. The first one being through designing in a way that gamifies the experience and uses the variable reward system. So think about your use of Tinder or Bumble over the years, or maybe you're lucky and you've never used these before, but I can explain. The app itself, you open it up and you have very, very simple instructions. You just swipe left or right. And it's a very, very simple motion that you can do on the app itself. And every once in a while, intermittently, you will have a match. And then the screen changes and it's green and it's exciting, but it might take, I don't know, 10, 20, 100 swipes before you actually find someone that you have that match with. So it's this intermittent, only every so often you actually get that reward that you're looking for. It's kind of like a slot machine in that way. You can keep pulling that slot, and even if it's only once a day that you get it, it's enough to just be this little addictive experience. You're getting dopamine hits every time you do get that little reward, and it creates this loop, which is called the variable reward loop. And this is built and engineered into the design of these apps themselves. When the rewards are given randomly and unpredictably, the behavior that draws out from you is more engaging and is in fact habit forming, or in other words, addictive. And that gamified nature isn't just bad because of the addictive qualities that it ties into. It's also negative in the fact that that endless novelty and those random rewards you get of the matches, it feels like you have this little win every time you get a match, but you can forget that the ultimate goal here is actually deeper connection, or at least that is for some users. This gamified endless scrolling can make you forget the actual intention that brought you to the app in the first place. I mean, sometimes you might be using these apps truly just to have fun and out of boredom, and I know that people do use it that way, but other people are using it in full earnest, and the gamified design and the endless scroll and novelty detracts from the actual intention that brought you there. I think people also don't realize the amount of algorithmic optimization that goes on the back end of these apps. They're optimized for engagement, not the actual outcomes that us users want. Like, if we were to leave the app and never have to download one of them again, if we found love, that would be against their business incentives. If you fall in love and leave, you're bad for business. And why is that? As with everything. This is a theme on my channel if you have not noticed. As with everything, I think the big question we have to ask is, how are these apps monetizing. The odd thing about these dating apps is they've become a bit of a marketplace, a gamified marketplace, and where you and me, users of these apps, are both the product and the consumer. Think about that. We are both what is on display, kind of to be sold on this marketplace, and we are using it ourselves to purchase. Forgive the language there, but like to match with other people and other products on this like marketplace app. And because of that, these companies who have created these apps view us as walking, talking revenue streams, and we can't forget it. There is an inherent conflict of interest for these dating app companies. If you actually succeed at what they say and claim that they are for, finding love, and you delete the app, they ultimately lose your attention and your profit. And this comes to play in a number of ways. One, of course, being that a number of these apps do monetize via ad revenue, which, as a former ad tech girl, someone who worked at TikTok, all these things, you can see other videos on my channel, I talk about this a lot. It's probably one of my least favorite ways for apps and services and platforms to monetize, because it just creates all these other incentives that are not in line with us human consumers. Because of the ad-based model of Tinder and Bumble, and definitely some of the other ones as well, there's either like actual ad inventory on the apps, or there's sponsorships that are baked in throughout. The more time that you spend on these platforms, the more money they can make from this revenue stream. And when that's the case, these apps are driven to kind of hack your engagement and keep you on and swiping as long as possible, because as long as you are swiping, you can have ad impressions put in front of you. But of course, these apps are trying to squeeze as much money as possible out of us consumers. So that's not the only way they monetize. Another model that most of all of these apps monetize with at this point in time is subscription model, and having tiered subscription services or in-app purchases that you can make for like additional advantages or filtering on the apps. Because the bulk of the money that these apps make is through incentivizing people to purchase these subscriptions, anyone who downloads the app to use the like freemium version right now, or the free version, that base tier, you're not paying anything yet, that tier is literally made to cause frustration and drive you to purchase one of the other tiers. It was not always this way. When the apps were just starting, the free tier, before they even had different subscriptions, it was all kind of the same. But if you have, like me, been on these apps for over a decade now, I think we can all speak to the fact that it has gotten worse and worse over the years as new tiers have been introduced. More and more features have been locked behind these paywalls. And I can just speak from my own experience. Luckily, I didn't really use dating apps from like 24, 25 to 28. I just re-downloaded them about a week ago, you guys. I was rolling the dice on in real life stuff, and while that has been somewhat successful, I did finally cave. And please, not too much judgment for me on that one, but you might judge me for this. And it is the fact that now, as a 28-year-old with a more clear vision for what I want out of these apps, I have only downloaded Hinge because it feels like the one that's most programmed to actually serve what I am looking for. And I pay, like right off the bat, I started paying for the subscription service. I was like, I need to have some of these filters in place. And I think it's crazy that the free tier doesn't allow you to filter for some of the basic things. And guys, before you judge me too hard, it is not for things like height. If anything, I actually filter out tall people because tall people scare me. That's an exaggeration, but like kind of like it's kind of true. And the only two things that I really need to filter for are, one, I'm looking for long-term relationship life partner, and two, I need monogamy. I've I've tried non-monogamy. I lived in San Francisco for 5 years, you guys. I've done the polyamorous situations. It doesn't work for me. Doesn't work for me. I can't share and I need monogamy, which seem like two pretty basic filters, but nope, I gotta pay, I don't know, a couple, maybe like $30 a month just to apply those to my experience on the app. And Hinge isn't the only one that does this. I think Tinder has around 3 different tiers now, one being like a very exclusive $500 a month one, which who knows what you get with that tier? I certainly don't. And the fact of the matter is, because this is their main revenue stream, the algorithm is literally designed to withhold quality matches from you or not put your profile in front of other people because they want you to get frustrated and they want you to pay. At the end of the day, we are walking dollar signs to these companies, and we need to remember it, because for something as intimate and personal as finding love, like, we need to remember that there is a business incentive behind all of this. If there's one key takeaway from like my channel, it's just to remember that all of these tech products are designed in a certain way because of the business models that are fueling all of it. There are so many trade-offs that can come with how an app chooses to monetize, but between like what our actual lived experiences as consumers are on these apps, sometimes it doesn't even feel like it's about dating anymore. It's more about auctioning off ourselves in this like romantic love marketplace and putting ourselves up for an attention rather than the intention of actually finding intimacy and love. And I think one key example that we can really look at and, use as a case study here is, if you follow the money, there is one monopoly in this space, and that is the Match Group, who owns everything from Tinder to Hinge to OkCupid, a number of other ones. It's basically this love business conglomerate. They seriously dominate the dating app marketplace and essentially create this ecosystem where, whether you think you might be having an entirely different experience, if you're on Plenty of Fish, or if you're on not eHarmony, if you're on Tinder, let's say, or Match.com rather. Actually, Match.com is another example of falling under the Match Group. At the end of the day, it's all falling under the same company, which is optimizing for your engagement across all of these brands. You can't escape it. It's kind of like how you think you might be getting differentiation in the grocery store if you buy certain beverage products, but like at the end of the day, it's all probably under Coke or Nestle. Everything in your fridge is really just owned by one conglomerate. And because the Match Group is a public company, it is ultimately beholden to shareholders who are constantly pressuring the company to grow more and maximize profits as much as possible. That's what all these public companies want to do. And this profit incentive is what causes all of these downstream effects. The fact that more time spent on the app is viewed as more money for these people. The fact that they want to have more people buying subscriptions. And they're hiding certain features behind gates and paywalls just to have those extra revenue streams. All the while being less incentivized to actually help you find a partner and delete the app entirely. Remember, like I said earlier, if you find love and you delete the app, they lose a customer, and that is not good for business. And at the end of the day, these are businesses. They don't care about you and me. They care about their shareholders. And that's the tea. I got a comment at one point talking about how I never really drink my tea, but you guys, I just get on a roll and I can't do it. So give me a second here. I'm gonna have a sip of tea. It's already lukewarm. Okay, it's going back to being a prop for my hands. Now here's the thing. The Match Group has been plummeting in terms of their stock price. It's really been on the decline recently. Like, I think it's down almost 70% from the highs that they saw in 2021, and that is causing even more of a desperation mode panic to these shareholders who are trying to make money. So these companies are really at their wits' end trying to just squeeze as much profit out of these companies as possible. But I think some positive things are the fact of the matter is this decline is in part due to the fact that there is a user fatigue issue happening. Culturally, Gen Z is less inclined to be getting on these dating apps, which I think is a really cool thing. As I have discussed before, I am an elder Gen Z. I'm kind of the top of where you can be in terms of being Gen Z. So I unfortunately got caught up in the late millennial boom of these apps. Like I said, I was swiping in high school. I was throwing parties for Tinder and handing out swag in college. I was doing a lot of things that I would be ashamed to share now. Let's just say I was using Tinder for all of the reasons that Tinder was initially being kind of marketed as to be used for. But that's not current Kate, of course. I'm now a filtered only Hinge girl. But also I might burn out pretty soon too. I just did this decision for my own life to do this again in my late 20s, and we'll see how it actually goes. But I think a lot of people are starting to have this same burnout, and there's also more niche apps that are popping up. But every time a niche app pops up, I encourage you to think about where the monetization is going to come from, because even if it seems at its inception when you first download it, if it seems innocent and naive and easy to use, it might only be a matter of time. So enjoy it while it lasts, is what I'm saying. All of these background trends are creating this downward pressure from shareholders onto the companies to monetize the existing users, the suckers like me who are actually using these apps, even more. So really, they're just ringing us for cash cows right now. Which also explains the rise of these extreme paywalls up to $500 a month, as well as the algorithmic friction and optimization that's being caused, that you might feel like you're not getting any matches, or you're kind of worried that you're being shadow banned. All of these facets come together because of the business model itself. When these dating apps feel more like a game or a hustle that you have to be playing into, it is all by design. You're not alone. You're not crazy in thinking that way. It's by design. It's the business model. And I think the thing that we are all starting to realize more now is there are serious psychological effects of trying to chase for connection and something as much of a really deep human need as love on apps and platforms that are inherently designed not to actually give that to you. Because of this marketplace approach that these dating apps take, the fact of the matter is the abundance or the illusion of abundance creates this paradox of choice. There looks like there are more options, which at the same time is actually increasing dissatisfaction, or is decreasing satisfaction, however you'd like to say it. You always in the back of your mind have this perception that there may be a better connection out there, that the grass might always be greener, or you can't even make a decision to focus on one connection at a time because there is this a supposed purported abundance of people. Let's not also forget the fact that there are many fake profiles on these apps as well, just to keep you engaged, keep you using it, keep you on the app for longer. It takes such a psychological toll when you think about the fact that these apps create an effect where it seems like everyone is replaceable and nothing or no one single person, one connection that you can follow is special. There could always be someone else. It's so incredibly damaging, and I think that the common rhetoric that it's all a numbers game and you just need to keep swiping, keep searching, especially if you're hearing that sort of advice when in relation to these apps, we need to think about the fact that psychologically, we weren't evolutionarily designed for this. We were designed for a small pool of people in our village or in our tribe, not the massive amounts of people that you can see on a daily basis. Like, you could probably see see in 1 hour just so many faces and bodies and profiles of people, more than you would have in your local Irish agriculture village back in the day, back before these apps were designed, or, even further back in our ancestry. Our brains weren't designed for this size and scale of dating pools. And because of that, it can really lead to emotional fatigue and this odd dissonance when you're using the apps. You can become really detached from the fact that at the other side, this person that you were talking to is an actual person, is an actual human being. I think something that I noticed in my youth, when I was younger and using these dating apps, is it really could feel like a game at certain points. You were sending these outlandish messages, not thinking that there would be any consequences, because you didn't know that person and that person didn't know you. You weren't gonna bump into them in the village square. It felt like you could say whatever and just let it fly and see what happened, forgetting that that's a person with feelings and they're a life of their own and friends of their own and a story of their own. And that's something else that always trips me up, is like remembering this profile, these collection of images that you are looking at, like that is a person. There's a detachment that can come from seeing too many of those in 5 minutes if you're just addicted to swiping one way or the other. Then there can also be real serious decision fatigue as well, or dating fatigue, emotional burnout. All of these things can come with the fact that you kind of get used to just spending time on the app rather than actually making a decision and wanting to date. And then if you actually are earnestly, intentionally using these apps, there can be experiences of what feels like constant rejection or ghosting, all of these other second order effects when we aren't feeling very attached to the people that we are forming connections with online. These surface level interactions create a numbness that can feel really exhausting. And the cycle just becomes more draining and unfulfilling the more time you spend on these apps. And while we cannot say anymore, like you can't complain like you did, I don't know, in the 90s or before the apps or online dating existed in general, we can no longer complain about like, oh, there's no one out there for me, because some friend who's been in a relationship for 10 years and never touched the dating apps themselves, some friend's gonna be like, no, you can download the app and it'd be so fun and there's so many people and blah, 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 blah. So the scarcity narrative is now broken. But at the same time, it's not like the apps have created this rich, deep environment to form intimate connections with people. It's really just breaking our attention spans, much like TikTok and social media as well. All of these apps, the incentives, the business models are just causing all these negative effects as well. And the reliance on dating apps created a lot of interesting cultural and societal impacts that I don't think any of us were ready for. I mean, I lived in San Francisco for 5 years, and dating app usage is heavy out there. Heavy, because it's such a techie culture. I always describe it as the type of place where you might see that person in the bar. You're out at the bar with friends and you see someone across the room and you're like, ooh, that person looks cool and fun and interesting and unique. I'm not going to approach them right now. Instead, I'm going to go home and try and see if I can find them on the dating app. Like it's just that kind of culture out there. And essentially, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people I know out there who are in like 30s to 40s age range, like solidly millennial, most people met their partners on the apps, which is a beautiful thing. But these apps have changed and evolved since that time because of that revenue pressure, that profit maximization pressure that is coming from shareholders. So it's a different era, but we are still seeing so much fallout, so much cultural fallout from the prominence, from the boom and bust of these apps. For example, I think it's shocking when you think about it, that ghosting became such a default for many, many years because it felt like these connections were very surface level and not very deep. There was a very easy opt-out. You just didn't have to reply to this person and on to the next, as they say. There was just less accountability because you didn't think that there were consequences to your actions on these apps, and there was less empathy because of that detachment from the end goal, the detachment from realizing that there's a person on the other side of this. And this is something I reflect on a lot because, I don't know, it just was really mind-boggling to me how normal that felt when I was coming of age and starting to date, starting to like hit the scene and figure out how to develop my own relationships. I had a really warped skew or mindset on what relationships were and what they looked like because I thought all of this was normal. Like I thought the behavior from this dating app era was normal because I didn't really know anything else. Like it was pretty prominent in my college experience. It definitely was prominent post-grad. And while I do think that I'm lucky that I am a pretty extroverted person, so it's not like I was only relying on these apps. Like I also have like my more fruitful, my more favorite relationships that I've had have come through meeting people through friends and whatnot, like real life connections. I think that there is a shame, a downstream effect, that there's an erosion of these real life skills. And you can hear these in the statistics that, like, I think the statistic is, and I am quoting Prof G Markets or Scott Galloway on this one, but he is always talking about how there's a crisis in the male youth right now, people who aren't learning to develop their skills out in the world. And I think the statistic, and I'm gonna butcher it, you know what? Let me do a pause and look this one up so I don't butcher it. One sec. Okay, I found it. It's that around 50% of men aged 18 to 25 have never asked a woman out in person. And apologies for the heteronormative rhetoric there, but I think that that just is a statistic that goes to show this erosion of real life skills and the ability to face rejection or just like building up your gumption and your ability to take rejection because we just don't know how to do it anymore. Like a lot of people don't know how to do it. There's less of a willingness to approach someone like IRL in real life and lay it all on the line and face that rejection, but at the same time be building up that resilience because there's more of a reliance on curated interactions and a safe feeling online interaction where you don't even have to like really feel the consequences of rejection. It just feels like a more sanitized space overall. So people are opting for that instead. And there's like a lot of other things that are playing into that, but let's just keep it in the like dating app model for today. And then of course there's the constant grass is always greener mentality and fear on missing out. The abundance of matches that you could potentially have out there make people less ready to stick to one good connection, to really develop and pour into one relationship that you want to actually build together. Even if you have something great right in front of you, in the back of your mind, there's always going to be this little nagging thought like, but what if there was someone better? What if there was someone better just like 5 swipes after this person that's in front of me right now? These apps have created a commitment anxiety because of that. Like people don't want to settle. And so there's this shopping cart mentality of, okay, there's one thing wrong with this person. Maybe they're a little short, maybe their nose is a little big. Let me just see if I can find someone better. And then you re-download the shopping marketplace app because it feels like the ability to form connections are infinite online. There's actually a stifling of true intimacy because it feels almost inconvenient to pick one person and really commit to building that out fully. Like no, why would you do that when there's so many other options that are out there? I think it's really a shame that these companies haven't, at least have not seemed to take true accountability for the way that these apps that have been designed in such a way to be gamified, to increase engagement, to hack our attentions, to keep us spending more on the apps, have also eroded all of these different cultural and societal traditions that came around forming relationships and actually finding true love. Now, obviously, I'm kind of a hypocrite here because I am still on the apps. I just re-downloaded them myself. But I think at least what I'm trying to do, and I'm committed to doing, and the other thing is like I could delete this in a month and like be sick of it and try and meet people in person again. But with any of this tech that has been built for consumers, when you and I, average Joe users, are the end users of these products, we just have to be intentional about how we're using them. Do things like set mental limits or take breaks and detox when you need it, and also try to move things offline pretty quickly. Like if you feel like you're stuck, kind of just addicted to the app, and you're addicted to that little buzz, that little energy you get when you make a match and you're texting back and forth, but you're never actually moving that text to an in-person connection, just try and speed up that process. That at least has been what I find to be most beneficial. Remember why you're on the app. Is it true connection, or are you just looking for little ego dopamine hits? And if you are just looking for ego dopamine hits, at least be honest about it, because then my filters will keep you out of my dating range. I think it's also important to just try and be open to serendipity and meeting people in real life. I talked about this in a recent video, but being just open and trying to avoid the convenience of this app-based culture that we kind of are inherently in these days. Don't forget about your local community. Don't forget about saying hi to someone at the coffee shop or smiling at your barista. Like, embrace the opportunity for organic connection as well. And then I think it's always important to remember, just reframe your approach. Like, dating, if you're really trying to make a connection, dating shouldn't be about maximizing your options. I have had some conversations with some male friends who have gone on these apps feeling like it's this very calculated song and dance game. If you have this response, then you're gonna get more matches, whatever. Really just trying to optimize and hack their outcomes and the potential matches they might get. Forget all of that. Dating isn't about maximizing the numbers. It's about just trying to find the right person, the right one relationship. You only need one. The goal isn't to hack the algorithm, it's to get the heck off the app in the first place. So remember to actually recognize value and try not to be too emotionally detached from the other person on the other screen that you are messaging. Dating apps promised us love at our fingertips, but love isn't something that you can just swipe into. It's something that you have to choose and build and choose repeatedly, slowly and intentionally, and forming it over years. And I would just love to hear from you. I got a little honest in this one. How have you experienced dating apps in your own life? Have they been helpful? Have they felt harmful? Have you felt the adverse effects of the gamified nature of them or the algorithm engagement hacking? I would love to hear your experience. This is a pretty raw one, so yeah, just share whatever you're comfortable with down in the comments below. I'll be there as always responding, and thank you so much for tuning in. We will talk again very soon. Bye.